I know in a match simulation, the scores and the stats don't matter too much. I mean, we've been belted and then came back and had a draw against the Pies in previous match simulation kind of games, so it's really not that big a deal for me. But I think match simulations do help out with things like vibes, for example, just to get a vibe on how either individuals or team plans are going. And granted, the Cats didn't have a lot of their top liners in, but I've still found a handful of takeaways, things to look out for as we approach the start of the 26th season. Let's do this. And let's start with Bodie Ryan. His stock going through the roof at the moment, and I love to see it. Now, he passed the vibe check for a match simulation as soon as Ollie Henry took a mark on him and he tackled him about 2 seconds after the mark was completed. Would have been a 50-meter penalty in any other game, but I just thought to show a little bit of intent early was awesome. His ball use was tidy and his spoiling was awesome. The fact that we've got this amount of defensive depth with already one of the better defenses in the competition is absolutely awesome to see. And I also like that he passes the vibe check of a jumper number. The 26 suits him in a really nice way as well. There were others that, of course, performed really nicely, but when the first quarter wasn't really going our way as we were pretty rusty, and then as we took over into the second quarter, I thought he was outstanding in both. It wasn't necessarily the quantity of things that he did, but the quality was there throughout. So a massive thumbs up to the boy from Glenelg. In terms of those who operated ahead of the footy, I thought Connor McDonald and Flynn Perez stood out in really nice ways. Perez, another one kind of like Bodie, where it wasn't necessarily the quantity that impressed me overall. It really was the quality. He hit a long-range bomb too. I know they had the wind in that quarter, but still got to kick them. As we like to say, golf is an easier game when the wind is on your side. It doesn't mean that you are going to automatically shoot a better score. Still have to kick it. I thought that was really nice. Showed some really nice flashes. Didn't look as rusty after his first couple of disposals like some more senior Hawks players did. I thought he absolutely sewed up that last spot on the list. That Jack Riding from Werribee, he showed that he has just played VFL for a long time. I don't mean that in a negative way. Sean Manor was the same. And then the start of his AFL career was a little bit slow before once it clicked in a big way. I think that could happen for Riding, whether that's going to be on our list moving forward in, say, 2027 and beyond, or whether he gets a mid-season chance, I'm not sure. But there is something there. That number 40, the ball use was really tidy as well. So shout out to him. But I think Flynn's definitely, if we are going to go with an SSP player, then I think he is the guy. I think we can automatically lock that in as a supplemental player on our list, which is fantastic. And Connor McDonald as the senior guy, there is a reason why it excited me, him going through the midfield. He didn't do that a whole lot in the sort of first 2.5 quarters, which is when I think you could probably take more of the game into account than nearly anything else. But the classiness that he showed was top shelf. He looks awesome in the number 9. I'm telling you, jumper number vibes, the aura. That is what we're about here. It does. Talks Hawks HQ, and Croc has got that in spades. Credit to him. Talking about ball movement seems a little bit redundant considering, again, you're not playing opposition for premiership points, so how much of it do you want to take out of it? I completely understand all of those things, but what I really liked about our transition movement, whether we were silky with it or whether we were rusty with it, is that it just seemed like the Hawks are going on what I would call a positive trajectory in terms of their ball movement. We still wanted to use the corridor. We still wanted to do all of those sorts of things that led to a lot of the overlap disposal that we had. The handballs with the stand rule were not necessarily on the fly directly from behind. So if you imagine a square, right, and a player has the ball in the middle of a square, not the center square, just imagine a square, right? And anywhere you can handball it is going to be a corner of the square. You could either go forward, left or right. They would be the two upper corners. Or if you want to give it to someone flying past you, you would turn around. You've got your lower corners. The Hawks were definitely targeting more of the sides of the square and not going to the corners, wanting to arrest that momentum and automatically creating, because we are so quick behind the ball, effectively a 2-on-1. So you are able to get 1-2s effectively. You are able to get handballs back, the original handballer. So say you've kicked it into the middle. Say Sicily has found Amon, for example, and then he wants to go to Weddle with a handball. Because Amon himself is so quick, if Weddle does get himself into trouble or the guy standing on the mark does see it coming and times it perfectly, you're still going to create the 2-on-1 if Weddle wants to give the ball back to Amon in this example. I think this is a really good way that the Hawks can expose bad defenses, maybe a defense like Adelaide, for example. I know we beat them in a final, but they might be able to hold up a little bit better. But against teams that we think we can exploit, like how would the Bulldogs defense cope with this? Maybe not well. Even Brisbane, whose defense for points against in the home and away season was not elite, by the way. So there are still going to be some defenses that I think we can catch off guard with this. I think Collingwood would be another team we could expose with this kind of ball movement as well. And again, even though defense is going to be tighter, so are we. So I think in terms of what we're going to be able to do to teams as a collective moving forward, that is going to be a really interesting one to watch. State of Origin had everyone in fantasy and Supercoach and those kinds of things freaking out because the new ruck rules pretty much limited all of their ability. And then in one practice game, Lloyd Meek went, nah, we got this. Now, again, I know he's playing against Sam de Koning, Jacob Mollier, and Mitch Edwards. So I understand that it's going to be relatively inflated. What was really good to see, though, is that Meek had an impact outside of the contest as well. There weren't too many, again, in that first bit of the game where it was sort of on the line, is he was still able to make an impact when the stoppage had moved on, whether it was behind the ball, ahead of the ball, some good running handballs. You love to see it. In fact, I would argue that all of the tools had their really athletic moments. Cal Shadir nearly kicked a ripping what the hell's the thing? A dribble kick, that's what I'm saying, from the pocket really early in the game. And so did Sam Butler, who started the game like a house on fire. By the way, he is absolutely going to be our defensive forward this year. And I think if he's leading our tackles amongst forwards, Dylan Moore did it last year, then that forward line is going to be looking in really good shape pressure-wise because we were relatively good at it last year, but it's always something that you want to improve to put other defenses under pressure, of course. But I think Lloyd's presence had him absolutely locked into the number one ruck spot. I know we've got Reevesy as insurance, but Noodle is just not Lloyd and at this point never will be. So it's going to be Lloyd. And if we do want to go with the second ruck, I just don't understand why Marbior Chol's just not going to be the second. I'd even suggest that a Cal Shadir could do it at times. I think I'd have more faith in those than I would going, what is the specific structure going to look like? Because even with teams that play two really good rucks, Freo, for example, Ned Reeves is not going to keep up with Luke Jackson, and neither is Lloyd Meek. So you think Lloyd v. Sean Darcy is going to be your natural 1v1 there. Marbior and Luke Jackson's at least more interesting. So we'll see how that goes. But Lloyd himself is still bloody magnificent. And in an era where I think Jared Witts is hella underrated, Lloyd Meek to me is sort of becoming the Victorian version of that. He's not flashy, but gets the job done in every significant way, and no one really talks about him. We do on this channel, though. And last but not least, Will Day was outstanding. Well, okay, not Will. Will's jumper. Jarman Impey wore number 12, and from what I heard, and this is just on Twitter, so if this is wrong, I apologize, but they just didn't bring his jumper. Or if they did, they brought like the wrong one. But I'm not really sure what happened there. But Jarman Impey wore the number 12 today. But he looks fresh, really fresh. Like Gunners in the State of Origin, but even more so. And by the way, how bloody good was Jack Gunston in the State of Origin game, by the way? Just cleanliness. Just, it did not look like he'd taken a step to get back into things. It was almost like he'd done like a 2-hour warm-up, and that's when he was rusty. Because when he actually hit the ground running, he was fantastic. And speaking of fantastic, one more shout out before I let you go, and you guys can tell me your takeaways if you've watched the game at all in the comments below. The commentator. I wasn't at Dingley, unfortunately. Wish I could have got there, didn't. But solo commentating, so no stats person, no boundary rider, and the co-commentator got stuck in traffic, apparently. They did a magnificent job. I feel bad that I didn't catch the bloke's name, but I thought he was ripper for what he was asked to do. Did a really good job. So shout out to you, whoever you were. I apologize that I didn't get your name. But those are my 6 biggest takeaways from Match Sim, guys. And we move on towards taking on the Doggies in a couple of weeks' time. What did you think? Comment below. Let me know. Or even if you haven't watched it, who are you most pumped to watch in 2026 in a Hawthorn jumper? Let me know. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Daz Talks Hawks family. Have yourselves a fantastic day, and I'll see you in the next one.